Throttle.
Yes.
Indeed, yes. Are we ready for the third transmission? I'm going to start right now with the theme tune, the semi-improvised second theme tune, as you will, pointed out. Maude, it's a Mudfland cast. Straight man and busty villain. She's a ghost from the Simpsons TV show. Auntie Marge and tattoo on your leg. She's a flavorless ice cream eater. She's a secret wind chime maker. She's objectified by Homer. Spooky mum to Rod and Todd. Maude, la 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 la. Maude, la 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 la. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that was the best one so far. Did you say spooky mum to Rod and Todd?
I did, yeah.
Where would
Because that's what she is now.
Oh, yes, now, yeah, I agree. That makes sense.
Because this is not a chronological show, right?
In some ways, it is.
There's in some ways it is, and in other ways it's not. Because we're taking a trip through Maude's life in chronological order, but we're standing here in 2020 knowing that not only has she just died in the Simpsons world, she also died 20 years ago. This is just the madness of Simpson time that we're trying to get our head around here, and we will come back to that many times.
Yes, rubber band timeline or something like that. There's a phrase.
Exactly. So what's the story so far with our Maudecast?
So far we have looked at her first episode and talked about her fictional birth and a bit of childhood, and we've looked at some Maude art.
We have. We learned one very good thing about her almost secret wind chime hobby. We know that she's a supportive mum and a voice of reason, but there's some dark hints that in the heat of the competition, the desire for peace around the world may just have crumbled, maybe a facade.
Yeah, we left off with her may potentially having died inside, so it's going to be interesting to see if that carries over to this appearance.
Exactly. And so we are the staff of the Maude Flanders Internet Museum Theme Park and Database, which is located just off Worsley Main's Netto car park as you're coming in by road. You are King Nathan and I'm King Brendan. We are of the Cockney Watchdogs Rock and Roll Band, and we are the curators of this museum. But what people don't know is the mysterious story of how we got the museum. Do you want to let people in on that a little bit?
Yeah. We won it in a competition, which was unusual for any kind of property owning situation.
Certainly was.
Not only did we win the competition, you weren't here at this point. This was me and Kieran. So I drew the most Maudes in the space of time of 60 seconds, and he kicked a ball against the wall the most.
Oh, so it was the old Modern Kick competition that they have every year in Wigan, and the prize is always some kind of large abandoned museum.
Yes, fland ball.
So you won that, and also it turned out later that we'd been given it, left it in our grandfather's will. So it was really strange that when you came into the museum. Of course, I wasn't working there then; I was still cleaning the park. But now I do want to say that the guy who the Night Watch guy, Stamp, he's left a message for you. When I got in there this morning, Stamp's left a message at the Maude Flanders Internet Museum Theme Park and Database, and it's a voice message. So just wait a minute while I find it. Beep, 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 beep.
Nathan, why have you left all these bloody Maude Flanders mops everywhere? They're all over the place and there's just water everywhere.
That's all it was. It was very mysterious. He seems agitated. What did you do with these Maude Flanders mops? These are mops that we sell at the museum that have the head of Maude Flanders and the stick of a regular mop, right?
Yeah.
Retail at $12.99. What did you do with them to make Stamp so agitated?
I mopped thoroughly because he clearly isn't going to do it properly, and it's none of his damn business at the end of the day.
Well, he's not contracted to clean you, right? So what you did is
not contracted to ask questions.
He is a subordinate, you're right. So just to get it clear, you used all of our Maude Flanders mops and just left them on the floor?
Not all of them, most of them.
Okay. So some are still usable. We can still sell those.
No, they're not usable, but I didn't use them to mop.
Good Lord. Okay, well, can I just ask you a question about the MFIMDATP? What's your favourite ride?
Yes.
What's your favourite ride in the museum?
It's It's strange, isn't it? Because most museums don't have any rides at all, but we have enough that I can pick a favourite.
We have several. I mean, it is a theme park as well as being a database and internet museum. And
Yeah, that's true.
I do see that your dilemma. There are so many to choose from. Which one is the one that you just ride all day if you had the chance?
I like the wind chime airplane ride where you sit in a wind chime and spin around and make a lot of wind chime noise. It's a new installation.
It is, and that's the one that has the little spooky mods that kind of fly around your head and come in and out while you're going up and down. It's a good one. It's definitely in my top 5. Now, there's a section I just wanted to bring in here called "A Week Too Late." So basically, we're not always the most thorough in our research when we watch these shows, and I imagine that after the show's finished, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that pops up that we finally get around to checking, and then it's only fair that we should talk about it the next week in a segment I have called "A Week Too Late." So, jump in this week. So you asked last week if the Dead Poet Society was a reference to the film. Well, apparently yes. But it was, as we said, it's a terrible reference because it's actually based more on a Karate Kid movie, and so not a good piece of writing there.
What is based on a Karate Kid movie? The book or the episode? The
episode where they kind of it's a competition. They come down and the two main characters fight in the end. It's not really a Karate Kid thing either, but it's certainly not a dour insight into the poetic nature of existence either, is it? It's a romp.
Yeah, it is.
We did say last week that it didn't really matter who wrote or directed these episodes. It's irrelevant.
Yeah, that felt a little bit... I still kind of agree to some extent, but it would be nice to know.
Well, I think the reason why I think it's interesting, and so Rich Moore directed it, who went on to direct Wreck-It Ralph, and the sequel, Ralph Breaks the Internet. And Jeff Martin wrote some episodes in seasons 2, 3, and 4, and then he went away until season 27, and he returned just a few years ago. Unclear what he was doing in the meantime, but here's why it's interesting. So Maude wasn't created in one piece, as we saw. There wasn't a lot to her when she started, and they added more and more. And some may argue there wasn't much to her by the end that would warrant a 50-episode podcast, but we would differ on that.
Yeah, I disagree.
But the idea is that Maude was created piecemeal by a whole bunch of writers along the way. I thought that was an interesting point to bring up. Maude, and with all these characters, and with any comic book characters, Superman, Batman, whatever, they're created little by little by hundreds and hundreds of writers, which is a very unusual way to write.
That's true. I'm also interested to learn who designed her, because I don't think I know that.
Yeah. I know they had this book that went around just a few weeks ago on the internet, which showed rules for designing characters. Did you see that one? There's a picture of the and how, the circles for the eyes couldn't touch the nose or whatever, some kind of rules, some pretty specific rules. So using that, they might have just generated some kind of generic character. I don't know. Be good to know. Who knows which one of the 1,000 animators was tasked with coming up hastily with Ned Flanders' wife.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, at the risk of this a week too late running away, I'm going to throw something in controversial. Rod and Todd Flanders, it wasn't as clear as we thought about which one of them is oldest. So Fandom, the website that is just so littered with advertisements and videos that you can't even load it up and watch without crashing your computer. They claim that Todd is 10 while Rod is 8. And yet, officially somewhere else, claimed that Rod was 12 while Todd was 10.
I think that's more likely. The second one is more likely. All I was certain of was that Todd was definitely 10. But again, I think that changes. But I think we can say that Rod is older. Regardless of how old Todd is, Rod is older.
Yeah, it's unclear. But what is interesting that Maude must have been around 52, 53 when she gave birth to one of these children. if we're assuming she popped her clogs when she was almost 60 and her youngest kid is 8, we're looking at a pretty late birth there.
Yeah, I think we might need to go back and alter her age based on things we learn in the future. Maybe Ned can be 60, but maybe Maude is significantly young. Maybe she's 20 years younger.
Yeah, well, we'll look, because there's some flashbacks that might give us some clues.
Yeah, I've always just assumed in the flashbacks they're the same age, but maybe Ned was 40, just looked younger than he was, and Maude was 20.
Could be. It's a conundrum, and if any of you listeners out there can help us, please do. Last thing I want to drop in, Nancy Cartwright commented that Maggie Roswell has been blessed with a skill in creating one of the hardest things to create, the normal sound, whatever that is. So she can easily slip into the girl next door. And so I think Maude here is the girl next door. That's a nice thing for her to say, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree as well. She's got they're all very normal voices, but they're all varied. They're not, her main thing that she brings is that none of her voices are particularly wacky.
Yeah. She's a straight man. She does all the straight men and straight women, doesn't she, Maggie Roswell?
Yeah.
I did consider doing a segment where we looked at what she was up to on Twitter, but it wasn't that interesting, to be honest.
Okay.
So before we jump into the main section of this show, can we take a few minutes to look at the letters and comments that have been flooding in, absolutely flooding in since we went live a couple of weeks ago. And we're up into more than 200 views, which is never had this level. I've never had this level of success with anything I've ever done in my life.
Wonderful. The only other thing I've had any similar success to is the Maud Flanders videos, which are doing very well, but I didn't make them. I made them, but I didn't. The work was already done.
You're more the curator of those videos than the creator.
Yes, mostly. One of them's pretty good.
Oh, I think you've done a great job there. You should check out. But
yes,
one of them is a whopping 500,000 views, so we've got quite a way to go before any of the Maudcasts really trouble that one.
Yeah, or there could be an overnight. An overnight bombshell.
An overnight Maudisation. So we got a message from number 1 Am Japan, who said, quality broadcast. And I'm not going to ask number 1 I Am Japan whether that was sarcastic and he was mocking the quality of our audio tone. But wherever he is, I really hope that raccoons don't come in through his window and bite his left nut off. Not that it's not something he deserves for that comment. So
no, I'm going to take it the positive way. Thank you. Thank you for the comment.
Now, the other good one was from Mr. S. Aspinall. Mr. S. Aspinall. The in-depth analysis of Maud's facial expression during the climax of the golf contest was a particular highlight. No other podcast, at least to my knowledge, is currently providing this level of scrutiny and insight vis-a-vis Maude.
Another top-notch comment if it was meant wholeheartedly.
Well, I think we can assume that he's a top-notch fella. And
yeah.
So thanks, Mr. S. Aspinall. Keep those comments coming thick and fast, because it's the only grease that keeps us oiled. I don't know if you've got any positive comments that came in via your way. Winnie Gatherite has a question for you, Nathan. Can Maude change a tyre? Is the question that's on Miss Gatherite's mind.
She can't anymore.
Ooh, biting satire.
I'm gonna say yes, really? Because I don't think Ned can. So one of them has to have the ability.
By default, if one person in the family can't do a job, the other one has to be able to do it.
Yeah,
I like that.
So she would be the one he would be the one who initially tried and failed, and she would complete the job. Is
that based on anything, or is that just pure conjecture?
I based it on Ned screaming like a girl, to be honest.
Okay.
But that was the first thought was him, and I kind of got it confused in my head that he was screaming out of fear, but he was the thing I was thinking of was when he was screaming with excitement because there were purple drapes in the house.
But anyway, we're pretty sure, Winnie, that Maude would have a go and probably succeed after her hapless husband had failed and squealed like a little girl.
Yes. I also received some variation of feedback from a live stream last night with the season 6 RuPaul Drag Race contestant Vivacious, who supported our podcast decision and gave me the advice to make notes and be concise. So thanks, Vivacious.
Well, I think Vivacious has hit the nail on the head. I do make notes. I'm not sure if I could say I'm concise. I'm not sure if people come to this show for concision. Vivacious, we're all on the same page here, so thanks for that. Shall we take no more further ados and get into the real meat and content of this episode? The reason, let's not kid ourselves, Nathan, the reason why people are here is to find out what happened in Maude's second appearance. So tell us a little bit of context about this episode. Maude's second appearance.
The second appearance is, again, to look at her in comparison to the Simpson family. The Simpson family are hosting a party that doesn't go particularly well, and Marge wants the couple to get marriage counselling.
Oh.
And Ned and Maude are present throughout the worst moments that the Simpsons suffer in this episode, I would presume to say.
So the episode is The War of the Simpsons. Which season is it? Which episode?
It's season 2, episode 20.
Is that a guess, or is that right?
No, that's right. It's still on the screen.
Oh, you're watching it. Good. It's always good to have it fresh in your mind. Okay, so if we jump straight into it, I'm calling this first clip 0 because you helpfully gave it to me about 3 minutes before we came on air. Now, in clip 0, the party is about to start, and Maude and Ned arrive. The door is open. Maude pulls a pretty goofy face, but they're kind of smiling and happy. Maude's resplendent in a red dress, and Neddy's got his normal stuff on. They come in, there's greetings, and then Maude and what's Homer's wife called?
Marge.
Maude and Marge are having a chat while Homer and Ned go off.
Yes. We don't learn much other than, as you've contested, she has a creepy looking smile on her face when she arrives at the door. Yeah,
it's goofy. I didn't say creepy, I said goofy.
Yes. To follow on from last week, maybe she is continuing to pretend that her mind isn't shattering into a million fragmented pieces.
Sure, she's holding it together well. So then quickly, clip 1. Now, Maude's not actually in this, correct me if I'm wrong. She's not in this, but it's a scan of the Simpsons' room, and we see Ned waving his arms around. And I'm assuming you've included this because you've assumed that Ned is complaining about Maude and some indiscretion she's done, and that's why this is in there, and Ned's waving his arms around. Is that right?
No, that's interesting. I like it, but no. The reason that was in there is because I found it interesting that Maude isn't there. Where is she?
Interesting. Negative space. We could do a whole series of episodes where Maude isn't there and wonder where she is and what she's doing at this time. Is Marge in the room?
I think, I don't know. I can't remember. I think the reason I pointed out it was because Maude was the only person that wasn't in the room. I think, which was like who had been seen in the prior party scene.
Would you like to take a stab at where Maude is?
Just somewhere plain, maybe the bathroom, or maybe she is getting a small sandwich.
Getting a small sandwich or preparing a small sandwich?
Getting. I think Marge has covered all bases food-wise.
I guess she has. She could be helping with the setup because these kind of parties, there's always last-minute things to do. So she could be in the kitchen if Marge isn't there. And again, if we want to look back at the clip, watchers, and tell us whether Marge was in the room. And if she's not, then that might explain that Marge and Maude are continuing their conversation, maybe while they're putting some little hot dogs on sticks, or, putting some water into the juice of the kids to water it down so that they don't get too hyper. Just imagine what Maude would do with her children's soft drinks.
Yes.
So then we move on to the second clip, and this is now hotting up, right? So Maude is in her sexy red dress. She's wearing an uncharacteristically saucy red dress, which I'd like to get your tuppence on, your 2 cents on in a moment. And she's still wearing the pearl necklace, which I believe Marge also wears all the time. And I don't know whether that's relevant. And Homer's looking a little bit worse, a little bit worse for wear already. He's stumbling around a little bit. His eyes are going a bit wonky, and he goes to Maude. He goes, "Could you get me some peanuts, Maude?" And Maude, she looks, and with a smile, she looks at Homer and she says, "Yeah, of course." And then she goes to get the peanuts, and Homer says, "Not those." And Homer's drooling and he's slurring. Maude's taken aback a little bit. It looks like she's like, "Oh, what have I done wrong here?" And then Homer says in an incredibly creepy whisper, "The one at the bottom." And Maude smiles again innocently because she realizes she hadn't done anything wrong. She just, this is just a different desire that Homer had that she couldn't have predicted. So nobody's to blame here. So Maude goes in for the peanuts, and then we realize what Homer's real plan is. We get a close-up of Maude's boobs. I thought I was going to take a screenshot of that, but I thought it wasn't very classy. We want to respect Maude here, but the Simpsons, they zoom in on Maude's boobs. From Homer's point of view, Homer shudders as he takes a good old look, and he's drooling and he's dribbling. Maude doesn't seem to notice, but I tell you who does notice. His wife, Marge, who's very unhappy, stood next to him watching this scene unfold. And what do you make of that, Nathan?
That was great. That was a great description. Part of me hates a lot of things about this episode. Specifically, when I rewatched it the other day, Homer's, from start to finish, Homer is just a terrible, terrible man. Just from people complain about how poorly written Homer is now, and in one of the new episodes, there's an episode where he crashes the car drunk with Marge in the car, and he puts her in the driver's seat.
He's a bad man, isn't he?
Yeah, this episode doesn't feel much worse than that, but this isn't about Homer, but it kind of is. The red dress, I'm going to try and remember everything you said. The red dress, in comparison to the Sunday best dress last week, is jarringly different.
Chalk and cheese?
Yes. So I think this is just, she's making an effort. She wants to look nice. The necklace I've never noticed since on Maude.
If you look at Marge is wearing a blue, not particularly saucy dress with the pearl necklace. Maude, by contrast, is wearing a devilish red sexy dress but the same pearl necklace. Maybe Homer is seeing something that he doesn't see in his wife.
Well, yes, but I'm looking at the screen now and Marge is wearing a turtleneck. An orange turtleneck necklace. Possibly one of the only times in the history of the show that she doesn't have a necklace on that you've managed to pinpoint.
Well, there you go. Because in this, I'm trying not to read too much into this, but maybe the necklace transferring to Maude's neck is symbolic of Homer transferring his desire from his wife to covet another man's wife. In this case, the wife of Ned Flanders, his next door neighbour, Maude Flanders.
Yes, I would agree to all of that stuff that you just said.
Anything you want to add before we move on to the next scene, which is also a humdinger?
Yes, I have plenty to say. I think she knew what he was doing, but she was politely, because the way that he says, can you get me some peanuts? She sort of says, okay. She's already quite nervous about the situation.
Well, she knows him, doesn't she? This is not their first encounter, I imagine. The Flanders have lived next door to the Simpsons for, we don't know how long, but a long time, right?
Yeah, but she seems kind of thrown off that he's talking to her in general. There's a kind of nervous energy.
A saucy nervous energy, or just the kind of energy of this man's a psychopath and really I want as little to do with him as possible.
The second.
And as we find out later, she's not just in this episode, but in every encounter she has with him, she's entirely right.
And she's almost, as it goes on over time, she's almost repulsed by him.
Well, that would also fit in with the anti-Marge thing, because if Marge loves him, then Maude would be repulsed by him. I think there's a lot of people who are repulsed by Homer with his behaviour. If he lived next door to you, you wouldn't like him.
No, I'm jumping way ahead here, but there's an episode where he's a hippie, so he's just sitting naked in the front garden in a small swimming pool, and Maud's response is, "My eyes have been soiled."
So this is an ongoing trope that not only is Homer lusting after Maude, but Maude is disgusted by everything he says and does.
Yeah, and going from last week's, your wife's butt is higher than my wife's butt. This is a continuation of that. Whatever's in Homer's subconscious is now coming forward,
Frighteningly conscious.
drunkenly and humiliating. But yeah, let's move on to the next clip.
Well, let me just stop there before we do go any further. Does this continue, this Homer lusting, or is it just a couple of episodes and then it kind of drifts away, or do we see this multiple times over the next until he has a hand in her death? Until do we see him lusting over her several more times?
It continues following her death.
Lusting beyond the grave.
Yeah, there's, again, jumping ahead, there's an episode where, I don't think this is in my list actually, but there's an episode where he, mid-prayer, asks God how she's doing and then makes like a growling noise after imagining the response.
Well, I would like that to be part of your list if you could make that true. Let's jump on to clip 3, which is kind of somewhere between a dream sequence and a nightmare where Homer is, it's the next day, and Homer is imagining himself remembering being at some fancy dinner party where he's put a fly into an ice cube, and this is the height of whimsy. But then the party turns into a vision of the party the night before with the Lovejoys, the Hibberts, and Ned Flanders looking on as Homer, now with a lampshade on his head, once again drooling over Maude. But this time Maude does notice, and she's shocked, and her eyes are wide, and she gasps. And everybody comes in to look at Homer and to point at him. And then it snaps back to Marge, kind of like berating him.
Yeah, it's framed as if everybody steps in front of them, but I don't really know if that's the way it was supposed to actually be. But Marge and Ned are definitely, supportive of Maude in this situation.
Everybody knows that he's an absolute rotter, and that. But of course, there's a dream sequence. So we don't actually know. Like in the real party, it seemed like he just passed out, and everybody just walked over him and left him there, passed out on the floor.
Yeah.
In terms of Maude's dream reaction, this is Maude's like full on. Oh, she's more animated than we've seen her before. But of course, it's not real. It's just a dream sequence of I guess Homer. It's not clear. It's not clear who's having this dream.
I thought it was. It's Homer's dream. It's Homer remembering it from his point of view. And originally, he's when he sort of remembers it as him being the height of whimsy, as you said, and then just slowly realizing that wasn't the case.
Okay, so he does come to that realization because, Homer's not a man of reflection, and he certainly doesn't seem to regret any of his actions at any point.
Well, yeah, that was my other point, that he just, the only concern he has is that he's upset Marge. At no point does he care about Maude's feelings.
But he doesn't seem to care that he's offended Maude in any way. There's no point in this episode
because he doesn't like the Flanders family, so it would be out of character for him to really care what she thought.
Good. So this takes us to clip 4, which is that Homer, it's church on Sunday morning, and Homer's trying to get into one of the pews, and he tries a few different people, but no one will let him in. And so he approaches Maude, who is looking lovely in her open-necked shirt and a pink tank top and vest combination that we know and love so well. And she just gasps and pulls away from him as Homer approaches. If she didn't know what he was doing yesterday, she already does not like this man.
Yeah, she also buttons her top button up as he walks past.
Really?
Yeah. So she's already like, they're clearly playing it for laughs, and this was a 1990s climate. I don't think the joke would land the same in 2020, but the joke is, look, she's terrified of him. The being terrified of him, fair enough, but the fastening the top button suggests that she definitely knows what he was up to, which until now we didn't really know. And actually, nowhere else in the show are we sure that she knows what he was up to, but we can all let's assume that she does know, and she's just keeping it to herself. I was under the impression she was told, like, she again maybe was trying to see the best in the situation, and it was Ned and Marge who said no.
He brought her down to earth and said, that dirty man was spying up your lady
Busted.
part. There's two things in this scene that are not related to Maude but were funny. He tries to get in a pew where Hitler appears to be sitting, and even Hitler won't let him in.
I didn't notice that.
A bit of a cheap gag, but it's fair enough. And then the other one, as we walk in, Reverend Lovejoy seems to say something about Satan's boners or more Satan's boners, and I wondered whether this was do you know what that is?
If he's reading a list of something, I can't remember what it is, but it's a list of something like teenage, like Christian rock bands or something to that extent.
I would love to know that there was a local Springfield Christian rock band called Satan's Boners or More Satan's Boners. But I assume that's maybe the name of their album, but it's up there with Diablo Canyon for me. Satan's Boners is a statement I'm going to be taking with me from this show, even though sadly it is unrelated to Maude Flanders.
One unrelated thing in the last clip that I wanted to say that just made me laugh was and adds to Homer being a bad person is when Dr. Hibbert leaves, he says to Marge, if you want him to live the night, I'd suggest you roll him onto his stomach. And then leaves and then comes back and says, remember, I said if.
Yeah, that's a funny one.
I enjoyed that. Nobody likes him at this point.
Well, he's not made any friends there, has he? So you would hope for some regret, but anyway, we go to the outside of the church and we see Maude, who's standing outside the church, and she's talking to a woman who has like two little weird-looking twins with big white hats. Maude's looking very content, and she's having a good chat there.
Yeah, I don't think she's the type to be a martyr and dramatize her own. Like, I think if she's going to tell somebody a personal story, she's going to tell one or two people. She isn't going to tell Linda outside the church in front of the kids.
You don't think this is about Homer? You think this is just general Sunday morning chit-chat? It looks like that. It's contented faces. We're not rocking any boats.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, she's just having a normal conversation.
But the thing is, for me, is as we find out later, Ned is inside signing them up for marriage counselling. Now, did she know this? Have they discussed this? And she's just calmly talking outside while her husband is saying that their marriage is falling apart and needs counselling.
I going back to last week when we talked about whether or not she knew he was going to phone Reverend Lovejoy. I think this is just another thing. Like, I don't think he told her beforehand, but I think she was under the assumption, where's Ned? Oh, he'll be signing us up for the marriage counselling with Reverend Lovejoy.
So they talked about it.
I think she would know that it was just perhaps a reason to be close to Reverend Lovejoy for Ned, as he just enjoys the closeness to God. So I think it's a bit of we need to find a reason to go to this.
I did suspect maybe that Lovejoy had got them in to get the numbers up.
Yeah, something to that, like, they're not there because there's any kind of trouble, as we find out.
Well, we do find out there is some trouble. And yeah, I'm not going to belittle Ned's problem with Maude, because when we get to that, my friend, when we get to the meat of this episode, we're going to find out really how that poop has hit the fan in the Flanders household. But before that, we get to the retreat. They're out there in the woods, and Neddy looks over to Homer and Maude and shouts, hey, you trying to give your marriage a little spit shine? And then Maude's looking a little concerned at this point, but Ned's got his legs kind of like crossed towards Maude, which seems to say that maybe things are not quite that bad. Maybe they've talked it through, and this is just really, like we said, Lovejoy's asked them there to kind of keep people's spirits up. And then we zoom out a little bit and we see them both Flanders sat on the couch with their hands on their lap, attentive listening, good posture.
Yeah, I think if there's any fear in her eyes, it's that the Simpsons have just arrived. I don't think that comes from. They're not there to really get into their marriage. They're there to be supportive of other people's marriages, but preferably not the Simpson family.
Well, you say that now, Nathan, but last week you thought that she wasn't emotionally invested in that golf game, and then within minutes you'd suggested that maybe her entire persona was crumbling. So let's move on to the meat, what I'd like to call clip 7. So Reverend Lovejoy, feigning innocence, says, Ned and Maude, what brings you here? And Maude's looking very concerned at this point, but she does say, to her credit, she says, go on, Neddy. She wants him to share their dirty laundry in public. Ned begins in desperation, which turns into a quiet rage, as he says, sometimes Maude, God bless her. Maude's face now is something akin to sorrow. She underlines phrases in my Bible when she can't find hers.
Yeah, I think there's a definite look of shame on her face throughout from when Ned says what he says, she is deeply ashamed. But again, I think this might have been the wake-up call she needed. I'm gonna scrap almost everything I've said for the last 5 minutes.
Good.
Ned
That's
signed
what
up.
I like. I like this mid-episode twist where there's a revelation. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just pointing the facts out to you, but it seems like we've just pulled back another mysterious layer of the Maude Flanders onion.
Yes. Okay, so Ned, sensing there was something wrong with Maude following the golf tournament, has decided to sign up for the marriage counselling in a bid to get her to open up. And this, in turn, probably shocked her to the core and made her think, wow, am I really that? Has it really come this far? So that's now. There's also the Homer stuff, that wasn't great for her. So she's already still a bit worked up. But I think this whole episode has brought her back to the present, brought her back to Springfield and real life.
Well, nobody wants that, right?
No.
So here's the thing that I thought, though, maybe. Well, first of all, I had a question of, Maude's a pretty careful person. Why does she keep losing this Bible? Their house is tidy. Why? I have a theory.
It could have been, go for it.
Please, you go first.
My theory is that, again, perhaps this contradicts both of the previous ideas to an extent, but maybe it's a cry for attention. Maybe she wanted Ned to notice that she was dead inside.
Could be. It could be that this is she in this bubble that she lives. She can't reach out. She can't say, "Help me, Neddy." So she has to underline passages in the Bible. Now, I went a different route, and I thought maybe she wants to make Ned a better person. She knows that Ned is a rage monster underneath this all, and she's seen this. We haven't seen it yet in this show, but we know has encountered this many times already in the past. The rage of Flanders. And maybe she's underlining passages in his Bible just to nudge him towards the Lord.
I see. So you're proposing that she lives in some kind of fear of Ned losing it, and she just wants to keep him because she knows he isn't. She knows that she's safe and the kids are safe.
Yes.
But Ned could lose his mind, and I don't know.
He could go absolutely bonkers in a shopping mall, couldn't he?
Yeah, he could. He could push Lisa off her bike.
Oh, scabbed knees all around, and we definitely don't want to be seeing any of that kind of shenanigans in Springfield. But
no.
So I think not so much fear, but from that, but Maude sees that she wants to save his soul. She wants to push him closer towards the baby Jesus with truths, because as we know, lies make the baby Jesus cry. She wants truth to push him closer. But in this same exchange, Homer, unhelpfully, after Ned's had his tant, admits that he's here just purely because he looked down Maude's dress. Now, if Maude didn't know at this point, this has rocked her world further because Maude is absolutely mortified by this, and her hands go to her eyes and she gasps. This is a roller coaster of an episode for Maude.
It's a strong start. This is the one redeeming moment in that he openly says, "Yeah, that's what I was doing." There's no seedy underhand to it anymore. He's just like, yeah, that was the goal. But I think the fact that she's so shocked is she doesn't, even though she is pushing for the truth, as you've just said, this might have been a little bit too much truth for her.
She can't handle the truth, as Jack Nicholson might have said in that 90s movie.
Yes, and I think to hear it just so bluntly put, to hear herself spoke about in such a blunt way, just took her aback again for that moment, but again, contributed to the being alive. So
bringing her into the moment, so you think this pain that she experienced was probably good in the long run because it brought her back to a full appreciation of her existence?
Maybe, because I know for a fact one of the next episodes we're going to be looking at, not the next one, but one upcoming, is the Leftorium episode, and she couldn't be a better, more supportive person. So I think whatever issue she's dealing with in season 2 might put her back on the path of good. I think the whole golf tournament might have been a blip in the grand scheme.
But I think one thing's for sure, Nathan, we're realising that nobody has an easy life. So Maude, everybody thought she's just in the background, she's just a good wife. Just look at the emotional twists and turns that she has to deal with. Though, not all of us are as saucy looking as Maude, so maybe not all of us have to put up with this kind of stuff. But Marge starts banging on about Homer, and she goes on for ages about how bad he is. And we see, as we go around the room, we see that Reverend Lovejoy's dropping out, like he's a bit tired. Helen Lovejoy's yawning. Ned's kind of like trying to keep his eyes open. Maud's gone. She's asleep. Maud is literally asleep. She's the only one of the four that actually completely falls asleep and passes out. But she jumps up, like kind of wide awake, like a startled puppy. It's like something that had triggered her. But why? Why was only Maud sleeping? Why is she the only one? Because she was the center of this. She was the trigger in many ways, and yet she was able to detach herself so much that she simply just fell asleep. It was still light. Must have only been 20 minutes or so.
I get the impression that she knows that Homer is a bit of a loon. She already, like, everything she's hearing, she doesn't need to hear all the examples. She's already seen enough. And I also think from a TV show point of view, out of those four characters, she's the most, it's sort of the funniest that she fell asleep out of those four, because she, especially out of her and Ned, like at this point, Ned's the one that you would go to for the comedy. So I think they were maybe just mixing it up a little bit.
Oh, so they were playing this for laughs, were they?
Once again, yeah, a cheap trick. But I think it was Maude. It's like, oh look, even Maud's asleep.
Even Maud's asleep. I think either they were trying to show that Maud's weak, but we know Maud's not weak, so I don't think that's what they were showing. I think they were trying to show her absolute lack of interest and care in what goes on in that debauched house. But they did go to a party earlier, so I don't know. Maybe, who knows? Maybe she was very tired. Maybe she'd been tossing and turning herself over the last few nights over the burning soul of Homer Simpson and his dirty eyes. Who knows? Yeah,
perhaps she's just tired of trying to be a good neighbour.
Oh, because it is tiring, and next to those guys, believe me, that would really try the patience of the best of us. Well, the last clip that you shared with me is the trust fall, and so each of the couples has to fall backwards into their partner. Maude, no questions asked, eyes closed, 100% trust in Neddy. I don't need to tell you that Homer had already left the room at that point, so Marge couldn't even do the trust fall, but was warned against it by Reverend Lovejoy anyway. But what do we make of this?
I think this is back on track. Any problems, whether our speculation was right or wrong for why they were there, it worked.
It worked. And as Reverend Lovejoy said, a marriage can't be saved in an hour. It takes a whole weekend.
Yes. So I think by the end of this episode, they're at a good place. Maude's in a good place. She feels safe with Ned Flanders.
Do you think she's learned her lesson about underlining the Bible and keeping hers safe, or do you think that she'll continue, but they'll just kind of have it as one of the little idiosyncrasies in their marriage that they just deal with?
I think it was, again, there was no mistake was made from her part. She was either crying out for attention or trying to help him be a better person.
All right. So she does she continue with the underlining though? This is what I'd like.
No, I believe that she would respect his wishes.
So she simply takes that pain and she buries it deeper inside herself and stops calling for help, or she abandons his soul and says, "I can't help you, Neddy," but she probably find other ways to help him. I'd like to think she's trying to help, and although this life's not easy for anyone, Maud's dealing with it in her own way, and she feels that helping Ned is the best way to help herself.
Yeah, I think you were more correct that she was trying to do a good thing as opposed to just trying to desperately claw for attention. I think she was trying to teach Ned some lessons she felt he needed to learn. So I feel like she doesn't have a reason to apologise, but she wouldn't carry on knowing that he didn't want her to do it.
She'd respect him, and now they're back to a good relationship, which is nice to know. Well, there was a lot of stuff in that episode. So, anything you'd like to add that we didn't analyse, or as my catchphrase is going to be, have we analysed the heck out of it?
The only thing I'd like to add is it's sort of not even about Maude, just the end of that episode. Like, the reason Homer isn't there is because he wants to go fishing, and set it up that he accidentally, he decides to not go fishing and stays in bed with Marge, and then can't sleep, so he asks, can he go for a walk? He goes for a walk. Somebody, by a twist of fate, somebody hands him a fishing rod that then pulls him into a boat, and he's being dragged around the lake by this fish.
Like a water.
But he's gone for hours. Even if that was the case, case, he then, once he's in the boat, he chooses to just stay in the boat and try and catch this fish.
Now, you say that's not about Maude, but let's make it about Maude, because this just shows that Ned and Maude, they're strong, they're working together, and Marge and Homer, they ain't got a cat's chance in hell, but they're still there all those years later.
Well, yeah, the resolution was that Marge came and found Homer just having caught this big fish and says, this is what you've been doing. I can't believe you. Like, this is the end of our marriage. So he throws the fish back in the lake, and that's the end of the problem. She just takes that.
That's enough. Marge at that point, it's small. She only needs a small inkling of Homer's love to forgive him.
He boasts. It really is one of his worst. Like, I don't understand who wrote it, and if the point was to, like, at the end, I don't understand how you're supposed to be on his side. He boasts that, well, you thought our marriage was in trouble, but I went fishing, and when you yelled at me, I threw this fish back. So obviously you're wrong.
He's a rock. There's no two ways about that. So we're running very long here, Nick, and I'm happy with that. I don't think this podcast can be long. Can be too long, but I'm going to make a judgment call. There's 2 sections here that we could do. Let's chop it down to one and just do one of them. Would you like to go for spectral speculations, where you speculate about Maude's life prior to the Simpsons show, or would you like to go for Maude art today, because we've got some funky art lined up? And whichever one we don't do, we'll do in the next episode, so nothing's lost, don't worry. Which one are you feeling you'd like to do right now?
Well, let's just do save the art for next time.
Okay. All right, so we have chosen spectral speculations, where we read between the lines to conjecture about Maude's past. We've looked at the birth of Maude, we've looked at her TV friend Janice Hubler, and we looked at her birth, her immaculate conception, miracle birth, which led Marilyn Goodman, her parents, to religion. Now, I'm not going to pull any punches. I'd like you to tell me about the time when Maude made her 3rd wind chime.
A 3rd wind chime. Okay, she's 15 years old.
Good.
It started as a school project. So the first 2 were for an exam or some kind of educational purpose. Now, this 3rd one is the first one she's making for herself, for pure joy.
First one for pleasure.
Yeah, I can keep going.
More. I'd like to know the whers, the whens, the whys. I'd like to know what the wind chime looks like and sounds like.
Oh, yeah.
Where does it hang?
I think at this point she's still living at home. I believe she would have done the wind chime as a gift for her parents.
Where would the parents hang it? We're in the house. We're in the Goodman house. Is it hung?
I think it's in the garden.
Oh, what does the garden look like?
Is there a book called The Secret Garden?
There is.
And is it a lot of flowers and like a brick door?
Yeah, I think it's like there's a kid in a wheelchair and he has like a secret garden. It's unclear. It's been many years since I read this. It's not a magic garden. It's just a secret garden.
I saw a picture of something like that, but...
So she hangs up the wind chime in the garden, and she dedicates it to her parents, and the garden bizarrely has a brick wall in the middle of it with a gate. It's a big garden then.
Yeah. No, I think it's not that big. I don't think this is the thing, there isn't a secret garden. So where the brick door is, where you would get a secret garden, I would say that is just the door where you take the bins out.
Oh, so that's just the exit to the garden.
Yeah.
What does this wind chime look like when she hangs it? I imagine off one of the trees in the garden, and it's tinkling gently in the North Dakotan spring breeze.
Yeah. I think, and I don't know if this is entirely, I don't know if this would be a tasteful idea, to be honest, but this is what I imagine. I imagine like a Jesus crucifix, but with the chimes hanging off his hands and legs.
I don't know how tasteful that would be, but we do know that a lot of religious art is not intentionally distasteful, but it's kitschy. So she's got a bit of a kitschy wind chime. She's definitely designed it with the mind of this 15-year-old besotted with religion, and she's tried her best to make it both beautiful and religious, but she's made this travesty of basically a crucified Christ with little wind chime, little tinkling bells hanging off his limbs. Is that right? Yeah. And the Christ in this wind chime, is it very figurative, or is it some kind of abomination? Is it how well has she created this Christ?
I honestly think she's done a decent job. I don't think it's going to win any contests, but for a third wind chime, I think you'll be able to tell that it is Christ.
As long as you can tell it's Christ, That's good enough for me. Shall we leave that there? That was majestic. All right, Nathan, that was a wonderful dissection of the episode, which we entirely failed to mention the name of the episode. It was the War of the Simpsons. But what's coming up in the next Maudecast episode, the fourth?
The fourth one. This will be slightly different. And maybe a bit trickier, but maybe not. The next one is like a compilation of the rest of her appearances in season 2, because they're not big. They're going to be like one line, maybe. I think there's 3 other episodes that she has a speaking line in, so we're going to be looking at those 3, and then we're going to look at that's all of her season 2 appearances. So we're going to discuss her season 2 role as a whole.
So less plot based and more, but we'll still get lots of nuggets of goodness about what Maud's character might be. Alrighty. Well, we've now come to that time in the show where we improvise. As you know, we got to improvise a song that takes into account everything we've learned in this show. Okie dokie. Come to give your marriage a little spit shine.
Christ chimes.
Zoom up and listen on the couch with good posture.
The ones at the bottom.
Ooh, you're drooling. Is this your way of nudging me?
Marriage counselling. Maud's to sleep.
No questions asked. 100% trust in Nettie.
Christ chimes.
Christ chimes.
Christ chimes.
Chimes.
Homer drooling.
Peanut party.
Homer whimsy.
Bible underlined.
And Satan's bonus. Christ chime. Tinkling Christ chime.
Tinkling Christ chimes.
Tinkling Christ chime.
Tinkling Christ chimes.
Tinkling Christ chime.
Tinkling Christ chimes.
And that's the end of the show. What's that little character you're holding there?
One of the octuplets. I couldn't tell you which.
So three.
Great job.
I got